right.
Let's just bounce out to this. Let's not even do a game day live. We're live as we are right now. I just want to let you know, JB. But why not have some fun? We're late. We're starting a little late. We're gonna be okay though. We're gonna be giving you a little bit of excitement here in Belton, Texas. But JB, I want you to take it away because we had some interesting games throughout Division III today. I wanted you to recap some of them. So go right ahead, and we'll come back here live from Belton, Texas in a moment.
Yeah, I mean, today we've seen, I think there was 92 D3 games scheduled across the country this weekend. Well, just Saturday alone, I think there was 111 total. And some of the ones that kind of stand out, I guess I got to start off, Frank, because we had him on the show in the past year or so. Sewanee, the University of the South, had their first win since October 27th of 2018. They beat St. Scholastica. You know, it's a good feeling for them, I'm sure. And so, hey, congrats, Tigers. You guys, got that losing streak finally taken care of, and that must feel good. Baldwin Wallace, they lost a game on the road to Mount St. Joseph. This is a team that we kind of were a little worried about that they might be overlooking as they were trying to get ready and ramped up for OAC play. They lost 28-31 today. Tough game, but a big win for the HCAC and Mount St. Joe's. Washington Jefferson beat John Carroll also, which is another a big win for the Pack. John Carroll's now lost to Washington Jefferson a couple of years in a row now. Hope came back to knock off Aurora. They were down, I think, 17 at the half to win 38-34. The Wabash Hampton Sydney game, which is one of the games that we picked, Frank, went back and forth the whole time. 100 points scored, I think probably 1,100 plus yards of total offense. Wabash was able to get it done at the very end with a late touchdown with literally seconds remaining. On the flip side, we also picked the Rose-Hulman DePauw game. And in this case, you got the right team. The home team, DePauw, came back to win 17-14. I thought Rose-Hulman might have it, but once again, they came up a little short against the Tigers. Elsewhere, interesting score that we may have to sort of see what this means for down the road. But Norwich gave Salve Regina all they could handle, and the Seahawks only won 7-0. So interesting result there. Friday night we had a lot of games. Probably the most interesting though was Nichols coming back from down 20-3 at halftime to win 30-29, and Carnegie Mellon Whitworth, which is another game. We liked Carnegie Mellon. We like Ben Mills, the junior quarterback. He had 354 passing yards, 2 touchdowns. Their running back, I'm just going to call him Trey V. He had 152 yards and 2 touchdowns on 28 rushes. Springfield had a big win, 42-14 in their pitch and saw game. 7 different running backs had touchdowns in that game, Frank. Oh, look what we have here. Sparkle Man is in full effect. Here comes the crew. Looks like you brought a little something extra there, Frank.
I don't know what you're talking about. It started raining. I needed to put something on actually here. So,
yeah.
You know how it works here. It gets a little wet, a little cold sometimes, and gotta have a jacket on. So, the crew is out in the field here. We are working on getting our Nate Milne interview ready to go here. He talked to me for a few minutes earlier in the pregame. Should have that in a few minutes actually uploading. We had some technical difficulties with one of our computers. This is why you bring 2 or 3 with you, folks, when you're broadcasting. Bring multiple computers and you'll be okay. That's the rule of thumb. And also multiple microphones just in case you notice your levels aren't on either. But that's a whole nother story.
In case,
So, JB, the St. John's game, let's talk about that for a minute versus Whitewater. That was a little surprising to some people. You saw a little bit of it or saw some of the back and forth about it, I think, because the pay-per-view nature of it didn't allow everybody to really want to watch that situation. So, what is your takeaway from that game today? Because that has an implication nationally for sure.
Well, I sent out a tweet earlier, and I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But, at this point, Whitewater's looking like there could be 0-2 going into week 3. And right now, Wisconsin lacrosse is up 21-0 on a NAIA school. I mean, maybe that's not a big deal, but this could be a year where Whitewater could get knocked off in the WIAC race. They could also end up, I mean, if they win the WIAC, they'll be an 8-2 team, and they'll have to go on the road for pretty much every game. Now, realistically, they could be favored in most of those matchups, depending on how the bracket shapes out. But I was a little surprised. I didn't think St. John's was bringing that much firepower back, but they look like the real thing. But to be honest, and maybe I'm a little partial to some of the Warhawk fans, but honestly, it seems like the Warhawks lost this game more than the Johnnies won it. There were a ton of special teams mistakes, snaps that went over the QB's head, a safety. I mean, really, the Warhawks made it pretty easy for the Johnnies to get a lead on them, and really wasn't until late in the second half where the Johnnies actually had a legitimate drive and a touchdown on the Warhawk defense. So yeah, there was some interesting, 24-10. I don't think that score really tells the true story. I don't think that St. John's is 2 touchdowns better than Whitewater. I think Whitewater just has some new players in some key positions, especially quarterback, apparently center. They need to have a guy who can snap the ball. That's just basic football. So, Whitewater is going to have a lot of work to do, and it doesn't get any easier because they're going to have to play the Crusaders next week. And sure, I think Whitewater is going to be the home team, but this Crusaders team, Frank, you're right there. I mean, how do they look? I mean, I can't imagine a situation where Whitewater wins that game next week. To be honest, I don't want to give away my picks. We're pretty even in our picks right now.
Well, JB, I think a couple things on this. Number one, they got to get through tonight first because, look, you can take no game for granted in Division III, and some teams from across the country tonight would tell you that fact based on their results. You saw the Baldwin Balls result. You talked about that briefly, and that was indeed a little bit of a problematic situation. So the rain comes down here. I'm going to give it back to you so we can cover some of this. But, again, let's go back to the scoreboard. I'll have you take people down it.
Well, I mean, so like we said, there was 92 games scheduled today. I think about 70 or 65 are in the books right now. We have some interesting, stuff going on. If you don't want to watch this game between the Mules and the Crew, there's certainly lots of other things available on the menu. That, especially, I'm staring right at the Linfield Huntington game. That's very intriguing. Linfield was tweeting out they had done some practices and training at the University of Alabama and a lot of the Roll Tide and all that kind of stuff, through their social media. So that's exciting for them. Huntington was a playoff team last year, like Linfield. They can go toe to toe with UW, whoever we've seen in the past. So interesting matchup there. But there's also a few others that are going on tonight. There's about 20 games still yet to be played, including this one. So lots of action still ahead. Certainly plenty of options if you're a Division III football fan and you've got multiple devices with access to the internet. You should be good to go. And fortunately, this game is not a pay-per-view like the Johnnies Warhawks game. I was a little bit surprised. I mean, I guess that's their thing. I know Mount Union does it too, but come on, man. It should be free in my opinion, but hey.
JB, let's take a look at this game in particular. As the rain starts to come down here, we've encountered storms throughout the week here in this area, and especially today coming up I-35, it was prevalent. There was a strong storm. There's only a 15% chance of rain during any 1 hour in the evening, and guess what? 15% is 100% right now. It is going to rain, and it's going to rain for a little bit here based on the cloud formation. So it's going to be interesting to see how that may or may not affect the game if we don't get the kickoff. Now, here's an interesting situation developing here at the Cathedral. There will be a celebration of the national championship, including pyrotechnic fireworks, in the pregame. Now, I can understand if you did it in the halftime when all the teams are in the locker room and everything, but I really was surprised to hear that they were going to do it in the pregame in front of basically the Muhlenberg bench, because it's going to be 5:49 p.m. will be the pyrotechnics, so that's about the time the team should be coming out. before the various, coin toss and everything else. Here, what are your thoughts on that one, out of curiosity?
Well, I guess it just depends. I mean, on one hand, it's their prerogative; they're the defending champions, and so Muhlenberg has known about this for months coming in, that this is the defending national champions place. Maybe it gives them a little extra motivation. I mean, I don't know, Frank. I mean, you've had a chance to talk with Coach Milne. The biggest question mark that I have with Muhlenberg is really who's the quarterback. And Michael Nitkowski did a great job bringing them to a top 10 type of national program, but who's his understudy? We've seen some understudies do some amazing things. The quarterback for Cortland State sort of jumps out. He's Jerry Boy's son, the former coach of I think Buffalo State, and he had a huge game today. J.J. Lapp was his favorite target, caught over 300. He caught multiple passes, but he had over 300 receiving yards in a big game and a big win over Wittenberg. So sometimes the understudies are better than the guys. I guess we'll have to wait and see. Yeah, I can see the Mules down there. So this is going to be a game where both teams are wearing solid colors. So we got the maroon versus the gold, right?
Indeed. We're going to find out who that quarterback is and a little bit about him in about 37 megabytes worth of upload. When we had to change our computers, unfortunately the file didn't go with it, and so we were just trying to get you that. We've got plenty of time. We will get you some of the celebration here in the pregame show as well. Again, unanticipated just how deep they were going to go into this. Coach Fredenberg is going to be in attendance from what I understand as well, so we'll see if we get an opportunity to see him walk by at some point in time or another. Actually, maybe just a second ago, if I'm looking back over my shoulder here, which I should not do. They teach you that in broadcasting school, which I didn't go through. But anyway,
Frank, can I ask you a random question?
Sure.
I'm kind of surprised. You're in Texas. When we were firing this thing up, we had Whitesnake on. It sounds like there's a rock and roll soundtrack. I mean, I was kind of expecting country or at least hip hop. What's going on? I mean, has Belton turned into a rock and roll town?
It's a college football situation, and not all college football players like country. And they're not all from Texas, Mary Hardin-Taylor, so you got to remember that too. So we'll see. So, last time we tried this trick, we didn't get much crowd excitement or enthusiasm. I'm going to try this again, if you bear with the turn here, folks, as we take a look at how the crowd is looking here. Got some gentlemen right there. We have some umbrellas going up.
Purple. Yeah.
Everybody in the front row, wave hello to everybody. So who's going to win tonight, guys?
UMHB, of course.
There you go. Very partisan crowd, I guess, we've got here tonight.
Oh, they're showing the C for the crew. Yeah, there you go.
Yep. Amen.
And just when I make the rock comment, here comes the weekend.
Okay, JB. I'm going to let you do a little bit of a vamp for one more second. We're going to get up that interview as promised.
All right, a little vamp for a second. Well, let's see. What else we got here? Some of the other late games going on, and I didn't have a chance to check, was some of the West Coast games that are going on a little bit later. I think we've got, let's see, we still have a bunch of games coming on. It's between 7:30 and 8 o'clock. Hamlin, Crown, Cal Lutheran's playing Southwestern at 8, it says. I thought that one might have been an earlier game, but that's interesting. You don't usually have too many teams from Los Angeles play teams from Texas and vice versa.
It's 8 p.m. Probably because of flight issue. Maybe they traveled today. I don't know. Although that's a risk. I learned that the hard way today. I almost didn't get a rental car and almost didn't get here in the first place. So same day travel. Yeah, never a smart move, especially in this day and age.
Yeah, and then one of the things I realized is that Laverne, which is in the SCIAC, is playing the University of San Diego, which I believe is a FCS like Pioneer League team, kind of like Stetson University here in Orlando. So non-scholarship, but still a step up and play. And hey, speaking of upper divisions, Frank, how about Coach Mulrooney getting his first win in his hometown? First time as a D2 coach, and there he is. Gets a win, 35-34, an exciting finish for him. Congrats, Coach.
Congratulations to him. JB, if you mute out, we will get this interview with Coach Milne from earlier today.
Sounds great.
You're good.
Thanks to CJ for doing this for us, Coach. You guys got down here last night. Take us through what you've gone through already here to get to the Belton Cathedral, as they call it.
Yeah, it's been wonderful. Just talking here about how welcoming everybody has been here in Texas at the hotel. Everybody wanted to talk football. We actually had Cal Lutheran is staying in the same hotel as us, so they're playing at Southwestern today. So it's been a really good experience. We had a little bit of rain, a little bit of heat here, but again, just a wonderful atmosphere for Division III college football.
Now, for this game where, let's say, the quarterfinal game again that you played at Mount Union, people would probably give you a much higher chance than they are. Michael Mikowski graduates. Tell me about your new quarterback, and tell me about the offensive line that's going to have to do some great work tonight to back him.
Yeah, Joe Rapetti is going to be our starter tonight from Ocean City, sophomore. He was our backup last year, and I've said it to a few people. Joe is more like what you're going to see out of Kyler Murray and some of those new college quarterbacks that you see. Mike was Peyton Manning and Tom Brady sitting there and throw the ball around. Joe's going to be a little bit more dynamic with the ball in his hands. Our offensive line grew up last year, and all those guys come back, and it'll be a big test today. Mary Hardin-Baylor's got a couple of D tackles that are pretty good. So it'll be a challenge for those guys today, see if we can move people off the ball. And then we brought in excellent freshman running backs. We have 4 tailbacks that are freshmen that we think are going to carry the ball this season for us. We returned Ethan Brader and Seth Pollock, who are going to do a great job. And then you'll see a handful of freshmen out there for us, which should be able to provide a little bit more depth. We had some injuries last year, and we just said we're going to ride with Mike. And now this year we'll have to be a little bit more balanced.
On the other side of the ball, they have a lot of guys back. Brandon Jordan, how do you defend that size? Because you do not see that size this Centennial.
No, I think we have to, again, as much as you can with Kyle King at quarterback, you've got to give him a variety of looks. If he knows he's getting man-to-man, he's throwing it out there. Why wouldn't you, right? I mean, the young man is outstanding at wide receiver. And then, so you've got to mix and match because you can't just play one-on-one on the backside because they've got so much speed they can take the top off over there. So it's going to have to be a variety of looks today. And then we'll have to rely on who we think is a game breaker and John Washington at cornerback as well. If we're looking at 50-50 balls, obviously they have a really good chance there, but John's a pretty good player, and maybe we can sneak a couple things in there.
Last question for you, win or lose, is this experience something that you are still very upbeat and positive on no matter what happens?
No doubt about it. I really am. I think it's been super positive for us in recruiting. I think our administration, we're actually having an alumni event down here today in Texas, and so our alumni have rallied around this, and I know it's great for Mary Hardin-Baylor as well. They have an unbelievable time trying to find opponents. Nobody wants to come here and play, and so for them to open up against a really good team and say, hey, maybe they'll beat us 100-0 today, but hopefully not, and for them to say, wow, this is a big game for us week 1, instead of just feeling their way out, again, I think it is super positive. The Muhlenberg football team will play anybody, anytime, anywhere, and I think coming down to Belton, Texas proves it.
Sir, good luck to you tonight.
Appreciate it. Thanks so much, Frank. Appreciate you. JB, have a great day. Thanks, CJ.
Thanks to CJ Holleran for doing our leg work there with holding our camera that entire time. Didn't complain one bit. We'll see him doing great work on the sideline throughout tonight for UMHB alongside me. I got to know him through their national championship experience last year, including Hardin Simmons, you can hear, and I'll get out of the way. You can see it even better if I'm out of the way. Mary Hardin-Baylor retiring to the locker room right now to my left. And so we're getting ready for the pregame festivities here, and decided to go get a warmer jacket on.
Yeah, no, I like the costume change, Frank. So are we going to basically go off the air once things start exploding, or what's going on here?
So let's see if I can do this. If you look over here, you're going to see the folks bringing out the pyrotechnics as we speak. You sent me a picture earlier of that. I was literally behind that. You didn't realize I was right behind that.
Oh, that's funny.
Big box. Yep.
Yeah, so because our friends at the college football, kind of yearbook, I think they're at the game tonight, and they sent us, their publication in the past, and they do a great job covering college football. It's funny. It's like there's a couple of random coincidences of people here in town, and look what you got.
You mean this college football yearbook?
Exactly. That's the one right there, man. That's so cool.
And just to get a closer up on it, Chuck Cox is the man here. He's the first named author. He hunted me down and said, hey, I've got a version of it for you this year. So we do have it. And it is chock full of Division III, Division II, FCS, and the rest, FBS teams in it. So you'll want to check it out if you haven't already. Obviously, we're a game into the season now for many teams. But speaking about games into a season, let's talk before we get back into this game about one Wabash playing North Central next week. Did they get caught looking ahead, I guess, is the question.
They might have, and that game tape that that NCC is gonna have is gonna help them figure out some ways to attack this Wabash defense, because Hampden-Sydney really kind of had their way with them there for a while. I mean, like I said, the yardage totals were crazy. So the Little Giants are going to have to button things up, and when they take on Luke Lennon and company, because, man, that's a whole nother level there, I think.
Yeah, I thought Hampden-Sydney had that game, actually, early on. They had a couple possession lead.
Yeah.
What was the final, 52-48?
52-48, 100 points, yeah. Crazy.
Our colleague Greg Thomas of Wally Wabash, I want to call him really badly there.
AKA Wally Wabash, yep.
Had reached out and said that the defenses in that game were playing very gentlemanly, and I thought my response was something to the effect of, you mean really gentle, because there was not much defense in that second half, especially in that game. 100 points between the teams. Not something you see a lot of. You see a lot more lower scoring games, it seems like, in the first week for whatever reason. I think it's because you don't have clicking offenses. And that's a segue here into what we're about to see here is my question for you. You heard the discussion about the quarterback situation and the line. It seems like Nate Milne isn't totally dissatisfied with the position his quarterback situation is in right now, but it sounds like it's a definite change of course from what he could entrust with Michael Nikowski. What's your take on it?
Yeah, I mean, when you have a seasoned quarterback like Nikowski was, I mean, he's able to make reads at the line of scrimmage and figure out some things, what the defense is trying to do, or disguise that maybe a younger, less experienced quarterback may or may not be able to discern. It sounded to me, Frank, and correct me if I'm wrong, Coach Milne was sort of referring to his new guy as being a little more of a runner as well as a passer. And this guy might be running for his life at times, but when you see the speed of the Crusaders linebackers, I mean, unless you're Jesse Owens or something, it's going to be tough to elude them. It's just a different level. And that defensive line, they don't need to blitz that much because they can get a lot of pressure with 3 or 4 guys. So, ultimately it's going to come down to the receivers executing. They're going to have a tall task, though, because I know the secondary for the Crusaders is very strong as well. So, hey, have to wait and see.
So, Kyle King, Brandon Jordan and company. Yeah, we did talk to him about how do you stop Brandon Jordan. I think this is that part of the equation that Nate Milne almost sounds like he's resigned to the idea that he's going to have to throw the kitchen sink at this, and it still might not be nearly enough for this game. Who do you think, or how do you think it plays out, might be the better way to ask you the question, in terms of Mary Hardin-Baylor offense versus Muhlenberg defense today?
All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome the Crusaders.
Well, I think the Mules are going to have to be aggressive. They may throw some blitzes out there to try to rattle things up. They're going to have to try to get some kind of penetration to make Kyle get a little bit out of his comfort zone. Because if he can just sit back in the pocket He'll pick it apart. And I think there's going to be some matchup challenges for the Muhlenberg secondary. There just aren't a lot of guys like KJ Miller and others out there that have that kind of speed, and to be able to put your hips in time to chase a guy like him. There just aren't a lot of kids at this level who can do that. So there might be some double coverage, some disguise coverage, maybe bringing certain blitz packages in, transitioning looks and fronts to try to confuse the Crusaders. But I'm sure Coach Milne has something up his sleeve, but it's all going to come down to execution, just like it always does in football.
Let's go back to the scoreboard for a second tonight and talk about execution generally. Hardin Simmons 79, Wayland Baptist 14. I mean, that game is not that far away. When you look at Mary Hardin Baylor's start of their schedule this season, it's not anything that you should look at and be like, that's nothing. They've got tonight's game against number 11. They've got next week's game against currently number 4, but obviously dropping in the polls after today. They've got a game coming up in just mere weeks against number 6 in the country, who will probably be number 5 tomorrow, Hardin Simmons. How do you look at this situation with this schedule for Mary Hardin Baylor? I memean, could they be 2-2 after 4 games this season? Could they be 1-3? Could they be 3-1, 4-0? I mean, you're very confident on this team. You know what they have in their arsenal. We've seen it. We saw last year in the national championship season. Give me your projection here. Where does Mary Hardin Baylor start this season? Assuming they win tonight, I think you believe that's going to happen from our picks. Where do you go from here?
I mean, unfortunately, I just feel like my perception of the Warhawks has really changed. They're just not as buttoned up and strong as everybody thought they would be. And like you said, the loss of Max Mailer, quarterback, might be an issue, and it clearly was. The offensive line for the Warhawks was an issue. They just don't look like the same team. Now, obviously, when you play a program the caliber of a St. John's, which is a legitimate top 10 national program year in and year out, mistakes will be magnified. But now, at this point in time, I would say if someone asked me, the Crusaders are at least a 14 or 17-point favorite, in my opinion, over Whitewater going into next week. I just don't think that I'm as nervous for the Crusaders as I was, before today happened.
Do you think the same about Hardin Simmons, though? That's exactly my question. When you drop, I think obviously Hardin Simmons is still mad about what happened last year. They had that game in hand. They lost it late. They got left out of the playoffs by the NCAA. They were mad about that. Whenever you put up I used to have an issue with teams in the past that would just run the score up, but they're really making a point that, hey, if you guys don't really think we're a top, caliber playoff level team, we'll prove it to you by scoring 80. They're going to try to score 80 points. That just to me shows that they're trying to make a point. And when they host the Crusaders in 3 weeks, they're going to try to make a statement in that game, and we'll see what happens. But Crusaders better not look too far ahead. I mean, they obviously have to play Muhlenberg right now, which is a solid team in its own. But hey, Hopkins looked pretty amazing today, Frank. They put up 54 points. Stevens, their quarterback, looked amazing. Muhlenberg may not even be the best team in the Centennial this year. We'll have to wait and see. Little prayer going on right now. We'll take a pause.
We pray for all of our players, coaches, officials, and fans for positive attitudes and safety for all of those involved. Father God, we pray for our friends from Muhlenberg. We pray for a safe return this evening. We pray for our great nation and our men and women serving in our armed forces. Lord, keep them safe, both here and abroad. Father God, we are grateful for the sport of football and the competition which it provides. May we reflect your love to all of those around us on and off the field. We love you. In your name I pray. Amen.
So let's take a look at the conditions across the field in terms of the contingent here for Muhlenberg, and I'm going to try to make it a little easier to see here. We can do it. Yeah, I think we're going to be able to. You can see across the
Zoom
field.
in across. Okay. So there's the visitor stands that sort of back up against the student rec center there. Is that?
Now for the highlights you've all been waiting for. Turn your attention to the video board.
Turn your attention to the video board.
Sold out, but still.
New chapters will be added to the repository of football history tonight inside of Hall of Fame Stadium. It's the Stack Bowl, the Division III National Football Championship. Mary Hartman from Texas, the Crusaders, as they take on the Cardinals on North Central. He throws deep down the sideline and connects on his first throw of the night. The 3rd down and 4, plenty of time. Throw across the middle is caught by Jordan, and he's in for the touchdown. Here comes loose as Raymond was back in the pocket, and Mary Hart-Baylor recovers as Micah Hackett got into the pocket and takes it away. There has been some beautiful receiving tonight from A.J. Miller. Pass is tipped and intercepted. Micah Hackett on the return. It's going to take more than that to bring down the big man. The crew dropped 8 in defense, and that pass was thrown directly to Hackett. And a wave of yellow rages through to bring Terrence Hill to the ground.
I give Mary Hart-Baylor all the credit in the world. They've got some serious dudes at wide receiver, and their quarterback's legit. I mean, they came in this game, and not to take anything away from what North Central has done, but Mary Hart-Baylor's a better football team. They start.
Wow. Everything's bigger in Texas, Frank.
Division III National Championship trophy carried onto the field by Coach Pete Freddenberg and the 2021 senior class. All right, crew fans, it's time to add another championship to the scoreboard. Turn your attention to the video board as we reveal the new hardware. Count it down with us. Crew fan, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Baylor team getting ready to come out of the tunnel right now. You'll see it when they do approach the field.
Hey Frank, I don't know if you can hear me over all the cheers, but how does this compare? How does this compare to last year's Mary Hardin-Baylor Hardin-Simmons game? It seems like it's not as big a crowd, but it's still a pretty packed stadium, it seems.
crowd is definitely smaller across the field because there was a packed house full of Arden Simmons fans during that game. So it's going to be quieter on one side of the field for sure. The side that I am on is the UMHB side, obviously, and it's a little bit more packed than that other side. In fact, a lot more packed. So the faithful did show up to cheer on the team tonight. And as the referees come onto the field, we're getting ready for the team to come on to defend the 2021 National Championship for 2022. This is another video coming up here. 1998 was the start of this program. This is their 25th season. There they are, the defending national champion, Mary Hardin Baylor crew here in Belton, Texas. JB, we are minutes away from kickoff here of their defense of their title, and also of the last time we saw Muhlenberg was in overtime against Mount Union in the quarterfinal game in the month of December, I believe it was, just beginning of December last year. A lot of people forget about that game for some reason, but they almost pulled off the impossible, according to some people's minds. Can they do similar tonight against a team that was much the better than the team that beat Mount Union ultimately last year in Mary Hardin Baylor? Final thoughts here, final predictions on the pace of game we're going to see.
Well, I think what we're kind of seeing in general, Frank, is that special teams play can sometimes be a little sloppy in week one. We can also see teams maybe feeling each other out. But then again, you can also see the crew go for it and try to get on the board early with a long touchdown pass to KJ Miller. Frank, we actually have a fan question for you if you're up for it. Andrew Christian is asking where you're going to have your barbecue after the game. Bill Jones asked me how my team to watch in the Liberty League did. And sorry, Bill, they're about to kick off in 5 minutes. They're playing Utica in the Believe Bowl. They haven't played yet. That was Rochester, by the way. You know, we'll see how they do. Frank thinks Utica's a pick for there. What do you got here? Some special guests?
I do. In fact, Coach Fredenberg, put that right up close top. Hold on.
He's carrying something pretty important there, Frank. Don't drop that.
Coach, how have you been, sir?
I've been good. Thank you. Good to see you.
Good to see you too, sir.
Appreciate you being here.
I appreciate you, period. I mean, everything that you've done for us over the years, we do appreciate everything. We have the national anthem. I'm going to ask you to hold on 1 second with me if you can. I'll hold on to it for you.
Ladies and gentlemen, our national anthem.
Does it feel strange with all coach not being out there as head coach tonight?
Does it feel strange? Oh my God. Yeah. This is the weirdest thing I've been doing in 51 years.
Any regrets?
No.
None at all?
I miss the players. I miss the coaches. I miss the camaraderie. I think I don't miss the 103-degree temperature and trying to do that, but I certainly am going to miss games.
What made you decide ultimately that that was it?
Well, I thought it was a perfect occasion for me to move out, Larry to move up. Felt like keeping our staff intact as best we could was important. It was a great opportunity to go out after 20 wins in 21. So it was just a great time, and we certainly are going to enjoy getting to watch our grandkids and watching our team.
How is Corey doing?
She's doing great. I appreciate it.
No problem. Coach, I'm going to let you, this is not a lightweight trophy. I'm just realizing how heavy this thing is.
That's a lot of hardwood there, Frank. We need to turn your mic up too, by the way.
How's that? But,
yep.
JB says, thank you very much, sir.
Congrats, Coach.
Thank you, sir.
We need to turn you up a little bit, Frank, although I think we're going to go off the air pretty soon. So it was a little low there.
Sorry about that.
There we go. Now we can hear.
Yep.
No
but Coach Fredenberg, good to hear from him. And in case you couldn't hear, he's talked about the fact that he just, the 103-degree heat, et cetera, kind of made it like he was ready to hand it reins over. He's going to miss the team for sure, miss everything about the players. But he wants to spend time with his grandkids, et cetera, he said. So great spending some time with him there. JB, again, final thoughts as we shift this over to allow the broadcast to take over.
You know, I just really want to see a good football game. I want Coach Millen's guys to play hard and to really, leave it all on the field. I mean, early on when we started our podcast, we constantly heard about how the Eastern teams can't compete at a national level. This is an opportunity for one of them to really, go out there. I mean, it is tough to come down to Texas to play a defending national champion. They might, take it on the chin, but hopefully they'll show well. Muhlenberg has the talent that I know Coach Millen has built up the program there. But, when you get into like the 1, 2, 3 zone of Division III, it's just a different ball game. So hopefully Muhlenberg can hang in there and make this an exciting game for everybody. But I know that Kyle King and Brandon Jordan are going to be next to impossible to stop. So, they just have to do their best and kind of bend but don't break.
All the pomp, circumstance, and everything else at the moment done with. Now it's time for some football, folks. Getting ready for kickoff here at the Cathedral. Enjoy the game. If there's an upset, we'll come back live. Otherwise, we'll have interviews from Mary Hardin Baylor. If they were to win tomorrow on Twitter, we'll have those on Twitter no matter what tomorrow, whoever wins this game. But if there's a major upset, we will be here to cover it for you. Good night, folks.